Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Hey, it's Dr. Homebrew. Thanks a lot, everybody, for sticking around for another great episode of Homebrewed Beer. We got it for you. Woo!
Is there anything better than listening to guys drinking beer?
I can't think of one thing that would be better than this show right now.
Nor can I.
And that is because of our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals. They make it possible. They make this show possible. Honestly, if they didn't want this show to happen, it wouldn't happen. So thank you very much to 5 Star Chemicals. You can go to 5starchemicals.com to learn about everything you can do to make great beer at home, which is cleaning and sanitizing. This is the spoiler alert that we talk about all the time, but 5 Star make the best chemicals to do that with. So check them out, 5starchemicals.com. If you see them around at any events, which they do a ton of, thank them, please, for us. Thank you.
Those carboys clean and sanitized.
Yep. Don't mess with 1-star chemicals, 2-star chemicals. That's just nonsense.
Don't do any of that.
Yeah.
We have a weird show for you today, guys, but I'm pretty excited about it, mainly because those of you longtime listeners, thanks, Bev. Thank you very much for doing your job. I really appreciate it. Do you want to lie down for a second? You want to rest? Yeah.
She wants a participation award.
As producer of... What are you, then? You're just a lady who pushes a button?
I'm a camera switcher.
You're a camera switcher. Yeah, but you're...
Keep it on, Brian.
You're something that starts with a C and an S.
What?
Camera switcher? It was never mind.
This isn't some kind of weird sour hour thing like where we're pretending Beverly's here. She's actually here. She's right here right now.
She's a cartoon sideshow?
Yeah, you're actually here. I don't know why.
I'm here. Either.
Because you're a C word, S word. You're a camera switcher.
You're lucky you added that S.
Anyway, we have some homebrew from Dr. Homebrew Brian.
I had some stuff in my fridge, and we had somebody get sick.
So we have some recovery beers.
That beer, I hope.
Yeah, no, not from drinking Brian's beer, of course not. And then I was at the store, oddly enough, today, and I happened to find some Guinness Milk Stout. It's called Over the Moon, and it's from their brewery in Baltimore. And we talked to the guys at Guinness several months back on the session, and they said they were producing some other stuff. I'm shocked that it made it out this far. I've never had it before. I have no idea if it's any good, but I thought we could bring it in and maybe not necessarily do a commercial calibration, but at least talk about it and see how the boys over at Guinness are doing with the old Milk Stout, because they're definitely not doing proper Guinness out there in Bmore. They're doing sort of other styles. So
that is a cute little box.
It's a cute little box, right? It's blue, light blue,
friendly, happy little moon on it.
The cow jumped over the moon, hence cow jumped, cow's milk stout. I bet this is something you get pretty much around the country. If we're getting this at like the grocery store in the Bay Area, 3,000 miles away, I bet this is pretty much national distribution. I mean,
that's what I think too. Think? Yeah, for sure. So if you're listen to our broadcast about it, our podcast here, and then if we like it, go out and get it. Or if we don't like it, go out and get it anyway too. Who cares? Yeah. Just go buy it.
Sweet Stout is a fun style. I like. It's a really interesting balance to that style, and the classically called Milk Stout.
So they are not different. Sweet Stout is a Milk Stout.
Sweet Stout, Milk Stout, interchangeable, but yeah.
Okay.
Just happens to be what the BJCP calls it now. Sweet.
It's sweet. Oh, but it used to be just a Milk Stout?
It's got milk, sugar in it, so yeah.
Fun fact, Jason, you may recall from BYOB TV that Team 2.5 Men brewed a Milk Stout, one of the recipes that we won early on in the show at the 21st Amendment, toward the end of the BYOB TV run, as kind of our prize for winning something like an episode 7.
I don't know.
Episode 8.
Literally don't remember. Yeah.
It's haze to me as well. I watched that whole series.
It's been like 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah. I remember it because I got to brew with Zambo and other teammates there at the little SF 21st Amendment pub. And it was a lot of fun.
563 2nd Street.
Like, hey, my friends are on Interwebs TV. Cool. Local access.
I have that show somewhere on DVD.
When are you going to reboot? Let's do a reboot.
I would love to. you know what we need is we need an actual producer. Because we made no money on that show. That money had no budget and not Bev. Wasn't a shot at Bev. It was like for the TV producer.
Yeah. Well, only Justin cares about that. We'll just promise him we'll make $1 million, and he'll break even, and we'll just have some fun.
We made a fun, entertaining show for like $12.
Yeah, something like that, man. Every time we wanted to do something, like we'd come up with a game. Like I would come up with games, and Jay would be like, "Okay, we can't do that." I'm like, "Okay, well, how about this? Yeah, let me run it, but no, we can't do that."
The censors say no.
Yeah, it was very hard coming up with games, but
I think pull your penis out on TV. Sorry,
I'm trying
to remember like of the different stuff. Like I know for that cooking challenge, I really wanted Rocky Mountain oysters, but we couldn't find them anywhere in the Bay Area. And then the ones we had to ship in, and we couldn't afford to pay for it. And it's like to me, that's funnier.
That would have been
hilarious, but I even forget what the ingredients were now for the cooking competition.
I remember some, but we had to go to Safeway and get something. But we brewed in the finest parking lots of the finest breweries and homebrew stores of the Bay Area.
It's true,
and that was very evident.
Yeah, it was weird, man, but God bless. All right, so basically what's going to happen is if you're a fan of Brian Shaw, you get to hear a lot of him today.
Hell yeah, you do. Who's not a fan of me?
Not balanced by Brian Cooper or myself, because I'm not going to say another word for the rest of the show.
I'll chime in sideways once in a while. I might even remember my recipes out. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah, so we're going to take a quick break, and then, like I said, we're going to come back. We're going to drink Brian Cooper's homebrews. We're probably going to run through both of them just to talk about his performance and how they are, style-wise. Maybe not necessarily an entire BJCP sheet like we do all the time, but who knows? It might just be more conversational. And then we'll tackle this Guinness Sweet Stout. What do you guys think? Sounds like a good time?
Let's do it.
I think that's awesome.
All right. Well, you have to say that. Both of you have to say that. I don't know if you knew that. All right. Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back.
Back to the examination.
All right. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. So, Mr. Cooper, what are we drinking right now? What's the very first homebrew of yours? We've done homebrew from you on this show, right?
Yeah. My sours and my weird stuff.
Okay, but
this is a grapefruit. I'm calling it a grapefruit blonde ale.
Grapefruit blonde ale. What category is this, please?
It's a fruit beer.
Fruit beer.
29 in the most recent guidelines.
29A if you want to use a letter with it, but it's just 29.
Who doesn't? Let's be honest. All right, Brian Shar.
All right, I'm giving Brian Cooper his Dr. Homebrew performance review for the Dr. Homebrew Hospital to make sure he can retain his privileges here at the Hospital of Homebrew Diagnosis and stuff. And I believe that you pass your review here, Mr. Cooper. The Grapefruit Blonde I really like this beer a lot. Aroma, the grapefruit was prominent, both the fruit part and the zest, and like a little bit of the pith. I don't eat grapefruit a lot. It's really tasty, but you cut that thing in half, and you got to do a lot of cutting, and you have the fruit, and inevitably you kind of cut that bit of the fruit out, and you get a little bit of that white pith. And that's partly what makes eating grapefruit, as opposed to drinking the grapefruit juice, like really fun. Plus, like if you're a kid, you just sprinkle like a shit ton of sugar on that stuff, and that's pretty awesome. But no, that combination of the fruit and the pith is really part of the experience, and you get that I get that in the aroma a lot. It's not just the fruit; it's a little bit of that white grapefruit pith right next to the fruit. Malt is low, kind of some base malt low in the background. That's fine. The grapefruit dominates. No off aromas. Don't get any acetaldehyde or diacetyl or anything. Give it 9 out of 12. Appearance. 2 out of 3. It's interesting reading the guidelines. The color is golden. The color is pretty dark for a blonde. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to have to give Brian a 1 out of 3 for appearance because that color is too dark. When you look at the guidelines, a blonde can be golden to dark gold. I did not know that. So it's nice to it's always nice to have a refresher. Blonde is not a style that is super popular these days, or is the thing that comes up in competition a lot. That's why you have guidelines and you write them down, so you can go and ground test this stuff, ground truth against some sort of known standard. So color is fine. Low and persistent head, which is fine. It was more hazy than I really would expect a blonde to be. Probably due to the grapefruit pectin or something, but I ended up knocking it off a point to 2. Flavor, initial flavor is definitely grapefruit. You get the fruit and the pith. It's dominant, and it's also pleasant. Get malt is low. Oh, you have a fruit fly in yours? Yeah. We got a lot of fruit flies in the studio tonight. Not that it matters to you at home, but I've been kind of using the pen top. I can give you a pen top here. Kind of using that little thing to dig fruit flies out of my beer here. That's probably a pretty good idea. Malt is low compared to the grapefruit level. Balances to the fruit. It's well attenuated. Finish is fruity and also bitter, as well as long. I don't think a hop bitterness is super high, but it's perceptible and it's there. And I think it marries with the grapefruit bitterness to kind of have that be the character of the finish. The hop flavor may be present, but it's obscured by the grapefruit. If it's citrus hop flavor, it's going to be just lost in the citrus grapefruit. So I'd give that 14 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, 4 out of 5. Body's medium. There's no warming. It's creamy, not astringent. Those are all perfectly fine. The carbonation is lower than I would have liked, which is not uncommon for a bottled homebrew that gets judged. So 4 out of 5. Overall impression is an 8. The grapefruit's really pleasant. It's dominant, but without making this grapefruit water. I go through and talk about how the grapefruit's dominant in every character, but it's not like drinking one of those White Claw seltzer things where all you get is carbonation and fruit and nothing else. So I thought it was really well done. The fruit character is really fresh. So I'll be curious to find out, did you take actual actual grapefruit fruits and cut these up and zest them or something, or how the grapefruit flavor got in. Overall, gave this 37 out of 50. Thought it was really well done. Definitely falls in the very good to excellent boundary. And I liked it a lot, and I'm going to have a little more in this glass while you tell us about how you made this beer.
Okay, well, this was a Pico batch, and I did in the malts. It had a raw 2-row. So this is a 3-gallon batch. 5 pounds of raw 2-row, 1.5 pounds of German Vienna, a half a pound of cane sugar, and a 1/4 pound of American Crystal 40.
Why the cane sugar, out of curiosity?
Well, this was intended to be an IPA, so...
okay. So you wanted to dry it out a little bit.
Yeah. It was based on a session IPA I made on my Pico brew, and I just upped everything a little bit on that, and I added a little crystal because I was using Vienna, but sometimes I like a little bit of that classic kind of crystal flavor in there, but I went really light with it just to blend in with some of the other flavors. The hops used in it were basically all Whirlpool hops, an ounce of Mosaic, an ounce of Citra, and I have to go to my Dropbox to see the rest.
And now that you say Mosaic, I kind of picked that out now.
Yeah, it's
definitely taste the Mosaic now that you say that's there.
Citra and Idaho 7, and I use the Citra Cryo hops. So 1 ounce.
Yeah, the Idaho 7. It's interesting how close how complementary the Mosaic and the Idaho 7 are to the grapefruit pith. I think that's partly what I was perceiving as the pith.
Yeah, when you're talking about the pith, I'm like, he's getting that hoppiness.
Yeah, and it's also an example of how malleable your sense of taste can be when you actually hear what stuff is. But yeah, that Mosaic has that kind of that kind of pith type flavor sometimes. And Idaho 7, I see that definitely being in that family.
Okay. What else?
But here's the thing: it didn't taste like an IPA when it came out. It was just like, okay, the hops fell flat.
Well, they blended with the fruit too well.
True. Yeah. Well,
they didn't stand out like, hey, it's an IPA.
It didn't.
Yeah.
It was too good of a blend with the grapefruit. I
think.
did
too good, Brian. You did too good of a job.
I pitched it with the WLP 90, the San Diego Super Yeast.
Okay.
And the White Labs Pure Pitch with no starter, but in a 3-gallon batch, I figured it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Pitched it in the middle of the night after brewing, probably after having a few too many beers, but and I had no activity by the next evening. I swirled the keg.
Well, you're married.
I still had very little activity. So I the next day I pitched a pack of the BRY 97 American West Coast yeast.
The Bry 97?
And finally, Bry.
Brian.
Fermentation kicked off about 24 hours later. By the I think I brewed on Sunday evening. It kicked off by Tuesday evening. I'm like, didn't have high hopes for this beer. I tasted on about a month after I brewed it and had transferred it, and it was just not hoppy at all. It was just like
weird.
It was just odd, weird. And I thought I got a little phenolic in it.
What did you do? I mean, do you really think it's just the fruit sort of like overpowered it?
There's no fruit yet. I'm tasting it as an IPA. I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
You haven't put any grapefruit in yet. Okay.
What am I going to do with this beer? And
what do you think happened?
I don't know. The hops just didn't come through the way I wanted them to.
Okay.
It can happen.
So you think it's a recipe issue, not that you forgot
I probably should have
just
dry hopped it more or,
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Anyway. Or dry hopped it at all. I think I just
right.
I just did Whirlpool. My notes just say Whirlpool hops, and that's all I did.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm a very lazy brewer.
Yeah, man.
Me too, man.
In spite of all these great lengths we tell people to go to make the best beer, do a triple decoction on that thing to get it right. And then, you should just make a big yeast starter and, decant it and cool it and do all these things. Yeah, no.
And yet what happened when you didn't make a yeast starter, Brian?
I was, we were preparing for beer camp, which we call NCHF, the Northern California Homebrewers Festival. I wanted another beer to bring. It didn't actually end up being served there, which is kind of nice because I still have it, and it's pretty enjoyable the way it is now. I'm looking at around. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? It's not hoppy enough. It's not an IPA. It's got a little bit of an odd flavor to it to me. And we'd been to HomebrewCon, and my buddy Jeff and I had been running around and gathering samples of things in the little area where they have all the vendors. What is it called? But
that's so unusual for you to grab like little samples of everything to put together. I
think there was some like a hard cider or something, or a hard seltzer they had, and we went around the corner was the Amaretti booth.
Okay, yeah.
And we spiked the seltzers with all these different flavors. I'm like, these flavors are pretty good. And they were giving away tons of. Everybody got a sample of the grapefruit, and then in the end, they had a bunch of that left over. These little craft puree grapefruit extract Amaretti, and it smells good. And when we tested it, it mixed well with seltzers, and
nice.
If you put it in any beers, but. Yeah, just the size of the bottle was geared for about 2.5 gallons of beer. I had a 3-gallon batch. I'm like, hey, that's perfect. So I just, wing and a prayer, dumped it in and tasted. I was like, hey, it's big grapefruit flavor, but it tastes, it doesn't scream artificial grapefruit to me. I mean, I can tell that it's got a little kind of candy-like quality to it.
For me, the flavor that I get is like the Flintstones vitamin flavor. Yeah. So it's a little chalky, a little like artificially sweet like that. I don't know if they put any sweetener in or not, but
I think there is some sugar in there. But yeah, talk about a little bit of a cheat. But it's just like I made a beer that kind of was falling flat into something that's drinkable and fun.
Yeah.
And
it came across really natural and fresh fruit to me, which is really fascinating.
They do a pretty good job, those guys.
Yeah.
I would use those extracts again. It's
I wonder if it's too much. Like it does have good grapefruit flavor and that like classic grapefruit thing, but
Yeah.
I think everything else in that extract, I think it might be just a little too much,
Yeah,
and so you get some of that vitamin chalky
If
thing.
I had to do it again, I would definitely back off on the grapefruit a bit.
Yeah.
Can you pour me a little bit of that? I've
Yeah,
also
a little
enjoyed
grapefruit back off would be probably a good idea.
When I
think so too.
when I'm able to, I'm like, what would this taste like as an IPA? So I mixed it with some Altamont Maui Wowie from my kegerator, and it was good.
It's good? Okay.
Because I'm going to mix it with some of this Danville Brewing Nelson IPL, and we're going to see what happens here.
Yeah, because I think you can get those grapefruity hops, and you can use this for like an accentuation of that, you know?
So now it tastes like a grapefruit IPA, even though it's an IPL I mixed with it. It's a little less.
That's a daring choice on the air.
Still
live.
plenty fruity,
That's,
but
I just want to point out that I'm an amazing. I can't write it down, but man, I have the great ideas.
Thank you.
I give Brian extra marks for his performance review right now.
That's right.
But it's a good blending beer. But yeah, I would definitely back off on the grapefruit extract. I would probably use that much in a 5-gallon batch and start there and maybe go up from there.
Yeah. For sure, because you can always kind of add that
because when you
stuff.
taste the ones that are more balanced, they've got a lot less grapefruit in them when it's an IPA balanced with the grapefruit, because otherwise you just can't taste the hops.
Right.
At this point, the hops weren't there. I just blended it to make something drinkable, and I'm like, well, I'll call it a blonde because the hops weren't there to start with. And granted, it's probably 6.5%. It was like a 1060 starting gravity, which is a little high for a blonde ale, but not too noticeable under all that fruit. So fun beer.
I'm leaning toward you retaining your admitting privileges for admitting homebrews to the hospital here, Brian.
Okay, where are we going next?
We got one beer left, though, so hold on to that. Hold on to that assessment, Brian.
The leaning toward, yes. So if you haven't heard me talk enough, let me talk some more about Brian's American Strong, Category 22B. This was an interesting beer. Aroma, low hop aroma overall, kind of low aroma in general. It got a piney character. I'm going to guess Chinook, and I'll be curious later to hear about your recipe. For a strong ale, I was surprised not to get any alcohol in the nose. I did get like a low pumpkin squash kind of acetaldehyde from this. So I gave this 7 for aroma. Appearance, 3 out of 3, dark copper in color. There's a slight haze, which is okay for this style. It was not enough of a haze to make me knock this down a point. Head is large, tan, and persistent. Flavor is initially kind of a muddled malt character. It's a little pumpkin / acetaldehyde. Piney hop flavor comes up mid-palate. Alcohol, which wasn't really noticeable in the aroma, is definitely present in the finish at a low-medium level. Finish is long. It's bitter and kind of balanced with the malt, but it's maybe balanced a little toward bitterness. Surprisingly, the flavor overall, I thought, was kind of low. There's a lot going on in this beer, and its flavor, there's stuff here, but when I just sip this, the flavor intensity on a scale of 1 to 3 is like a 1, which is kind of bizarre. But sometimes you get beers like that. It's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad. It's just the flavor intensity is not real high. It's well attenuated, which is good for a strong beer. That can be a difficult challenge. I gave this 11 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, there's definitely low warming at first. As I continued drinking the sample, the warming went up to medium. Body's medium. It's really more creamy than perky or astringent. Carbonation is low. And I knocked off a point for carbonation. I do that to myself. It's not like all of us don't have problems with carbonation when we bottle homebrew.
True.
So this is 4 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Overall impression, I gave it a 6. Overall, it's a pleasant beer. It's low in flavor, despite the fact there's alcohol and clearly a lot of fermentables in here. And maybe additional malt complexity. This is kind of the paradox of attenuation, right? You want a well-attenuated beer, but sometimes it's so well-attenuated, I think it attenuates the flavor away with it. Mm-hmm. And maybe an additional complexity. You can't assume this was a grain, a full
all grain.
All grain.
Yeah.
How come I?
It would take a homebrewer to explain. Yeah,
exactly.
Fine, yeah.
Sometimes, but it's whether you're brewing all grain or extract, maybe a little more malt complexity with additional extract or grain would be nice, and it might help it add a little more flavor.
Okay.
It's a good beer. I gave it a 31 out of 50. Maybe there's maybe a hint of acetaldehyde, and that might just be me. There's something a little odd about the flavor and the aroma.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of leaning toward it being acetaldehyde, but it's really kind of tricky. I'm having a difficult time thinking about what specifically it is, and I'm leaning toward that slight pumpkin character, but I might be talking myself into it.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's definitely there. It's a little green apple, but it's also a little underripe, kind of squashy thing. And I don't know what I don't know what it's from.
Pumpkin skin. It's from a very sluggish fermentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely get now that you say green apple. That's like that's not green
it's on the
apple
tart
like a
side.
Granny Smith, but green apple like you. This is underripe from the backyard. I don't want to eat this.
Yeah.
So Brian, tell us about your recipe and your fermentation.
So we can replicate it.
It sounds like it was sluggish,
so
like you were to say.
I really didn't want to bring this on the show because I need to do this. I need to do this properly another time.
I know. I should have brought my shitty beer instead, but it was stuck in my keg.
That's okay. No, that's okay. So this was my first attempt, and I did a few things wrong. I think in that I ordered some pico packs of my own beer, the Kick Your Own Ass Ale, and I did. They sent me one for free just because it's my recipe, and it sat around for a long while, and then I decided to order another one, and the first one I stored the yeast and it was in the fridge for a long time. On the second one, I was lazy and I left it in the box until I got around to brewing it. And I'm like, I never put that yeast in the fridge or the hops in the freezer because the first one I separated all that stuff out meticulously and did that. But it's definitely got some acetaldehyde. So I just pitched in the yeast, one of them that had been in the fridge for a long time and one that had been sitting at room temperature for God knows how long. Mm-hmm. And neither one of them, I did two, 1.5 gallon batches side by side because I wanted to get at least a half a keg out of this thing. So that's why I bought the second one. But, it's so, just buying the Pico pack and doing, the Pico Z makes good wort. Yeah. But if you don't take care of that wort, it's not going to give you good beer.
Right. It's like anything else.
And that's all on me. That is all on me. And this is my own recipe we're talking about. So I'm slightly embarrassed even just talking about it.
Well, you should be, to be completely honest.
I was guessing this might be Kick Your Own Ass Ale that went wrong.
So it is Chinook hops. And
I got the Chinook hops right.
Yeah.
It did smell and taste piney.
So this is supposed to be a bold, arrogant brew with rich malt notes, grapefruit and pine aroma, and a dry finish with firm alcohol throughout. American Strong Ale, target specs are ABV at 7.9. It has 2-row crystal malt and flaked oats, and only Chinook hops in it. SRM around 14, IBUs around 86. Actually, so the beer did not ferment well, and I have hopes of rescuing it. I have hopes of doing like a croisening, even though it's carbonated now. I want to pull the carbonation out and Actually, I just want to start over and do it again sometime. So
we'll do it.
This was a failed experiment, and I'm sorry.
Go home right now. You have our permission to leave the show early.
You subtract 5 points from the score, and please just love it. But the odd thing to me is I agree with the tasting notes that it does taste dry, and it has that odd pumpkin skin thing to it.
Yeah.
But the actual finishing gravity on this was at 1020. It finished at 1020.
Wow.
So it only got to
higher
and that's
than
why
I would have expected.
it's not as much alcohol as you would get otherwise. It's like, barely 7, where it should be around 8. But it's, it's just...
Still get some warming from this.
Quite there where it is. There is some warming. I would feel like, wow, it should be much sweeter than it is. But there's something, I think that I brewed it with distilled water as they recommend for those. And the mineraliness that they use in there to, give that dry mouthfeel is working overtime maybe to double up and make it something that tastes dry even though it actually isn't. So because I taste the same thing you do. If I put this in a hydrometer, I'm sure it would still say, because I mixed the 2 batches, maybe it adjusted a little bit and dried out a little more. I'm not sure, but it's been chilled most of the time, so I don't think it's dried out anymore or had more time to ferment.
No.
I left it out to try to clean out some of that green apple and but. So I have plans for doing this again, and I'll bring a true test. This is not the true test, so please don't advertise this as kick your own ass ale. I'm going to lose my good reputation and lose my credentials as a doctor of homebrew with this.
All right, Brian, as long as you can guarantee me some good tea times for the next calendar year, I'm inclined to recommend that you retain your homebrew admitting privileges at the hospital here.
I'll bring the grapefruit ale, buddy.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everybody, hang tight real fast. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to try this over-the-moon milk stout from Guinness in Bmore in Baltimore. The homies representing flat-billed caps, Timberlands, gray sweatpants. We're all about it. We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Kings.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos Kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos Kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
I'm sorry to tell you this, but we're going to have to pour you out.
Back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, everybody, thanks for sticking around. I'm about to tear into this pack. I feel like it's Christmas because it's a brand new
Christmas
beer from Guinness that I am excited to drink. It's a brand new beer. How many times do you get like one of your favorite beers to release a brand new beer? Especially,
does that have a
I love Guinness,
on date?
Well, so here's the date code, man. I was trying to look it up. I don't understand it. It's 754-862-1129-3482, and then the second line is L9241T20021017.
That's the star date, and the second one is the globular cluster where that was brewed. So that's just from the future. That's okay.
Okay. I got a globular cluster. I have to get it removed.
You know, while you're opening that up, I want to talk briefly, talking about beers from larger breweries that you like. Sierra Nevada Narwhal. I have a 6-pack in my fridge I got the other day. The first one, Imperial Stout from them. Oh, my God, that is so amazing and so well attenuated and just so tasty. It's nice. It's a seasonal release. They don't make a lot of it. It's always nice when it comes out.
Here.
Jason is smelling the Milk Stout from the can.
Smell the can. So there is a date on the bottom.
Brewed in Baltimore.
Yeah, now I want to find out why you guys talk about it. L924, dude.
L7?
1T2002. Let's go, boys.
Okay.
I don't know, it smells good, right? What do you think?
It does
Aroma's
smell
kind
good.
of low overall, but it smells good. I like
Canned 9/29/19. So it's pretty fresh for something like this, man.
Yeah, just 2 months old for making it all the way across the country.
And I think for a milk stout, that's fine, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. This is not like a hop. It's the hop-forward styles that really don't travel that well, and especially the hazies.
Yeah.
Darker beers that aren't so hop-forward can last for a while, especially if they're cared for in transit.
I like this beer.
This has more roasted grain aroma than like coffee or chocolate, really, to me. There's a little bit of cocoa, like kind of, bitter cocoa and roast in the nose.
Yeah, I get kind of that dark chocolate, bitter cocoa sort of, like the baking chocolate.
There's a hint of some sweetness in it, but it's not very fruity.
No,
it's clean. No baddies, no diacetyl.
What's the number on this, Brian? I know you have it. You're like the BJCP dictionary.
The number?
Yeah.
What, starting gravity?
No, the category.
Oh, a 16A.
16A.
Sweet stout.
Oh, dark British beer, sweet stout. Yeah.
So, and most of the names in the commercial examples are like Left Hand Milk Stout, Mackeson's Triple X Stout, Samuel Adams Cream Stout, those, Bristol Beer Factory Milk Stout.
Can suggest coffee and cream or sweetened espresso.
That's the essence
for sure.
of the beer. So if the overall impression, a very dark, sweet, full-bodied, slightly roasty ale that can suggest coffee and cream or sweetened espresso.
This is on the low end of sweetness for me in terms of milk stouts I've had or brewed.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting a ton of sweetness in this.
I would call it like at least medium, if not medium high. Yeah.
Maybe because of this other beer I've been drinking, maybe it's affecting my palate.
Maybe I've been sandpapering my tongues. I don't really.
Yeah, I've been licking cat tongues to be sure I get my tongue toughened up here.
I love that.
But no, it's good. I'm not getting a giant. It's not an overwhelming. Sometimes you have a milk stout, and it's like, oh, God, this is just the sweetness is overpowering.
Yes.
And I guess my point is this is not on that end of the spectrum. This is more on the restrained end of the spectrum. And I like it. I think it's really, it's balanced.
Do you want to go through the thing, or do you want me to do it, Brian?
Sure.
All right. So in the aroma, you should be getting mild roasted grain, sometimes with coffee and or chocolate notes. An impression of cream-like sweetness often exists. Fruitiness can be low to moderately high. Diacetyl low to none. Hop aroma low to none with floral or earthy notes. I don't get. I mean, maybe there's a little fruitiness because I think that Guinness yeast profile is there. Like when you try it, it's distinctively a Guinness.
Yeah.
It's distinctively a Guinness beer, and so I think it does have some of those maybe red apple fruitiness things to it.
They make really dry, stouts. So,
but definitely cream-like sweetness. If you're talking fruitiness, like maybe like a red apple, then yeah, for sure. Diacetyl low to none, absolutely. Hop aroma low to none. I don't get any hops in this aroma at all.
Well, I'm getting a little earthiness in it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's got like maybe some fuggles or something that's giving you that, like, it's not a hoppy beer by any stretch, but
no.
There's
floral or earthy notes.
Earthy balance to it.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
Yeah, it does have that. It doesn't smell like standard Guinness draft. But there is that hint of, when you kind of really think about it, it's a flavor that's in that family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's, you're saying, it's probably the yeast.
I would think so.
Or it might be some similarity in malt profile. But what's also interesting to me is this is a beer that's definitely lighter in color. It's more... Because Guinness is Guinness is black.
This is not black.
This is a dark
Reddish,
brown. It's
dark
not even
brown.
the darkest brown you could have. And there's definitely the ability to see through it, and not just like at the edges, like a Guinness might have. This is more of even more of a medium dark brown than a dark brown. You know what I mean?
It's very clear too. It just has those.
It's very clear,
kind of mahogany highlights and.
Appearance should be very dark brown to black in color. Can be opaque. If not, it should be clear, creamy tan to brown head. Which I think it's a lighter tan, lighter to medium tan on the head for sure.
But it's a creamy looking head.
Yeah.
I get more sweetness in the flavor as I drink more of this and kind of go away from the one I'd been drinking. So that was, sorry Guinness, my palate was kind of blown out by my show beer here.
Arthur Guinness is rolling in his
Arthur Guinness is slapping. Boy, mate, I'm not even going to try to be Irish. Sorry, all of our Irish and UK listeners. I apologize for that sound I just made.
They let this be brewed in Baltimore?
No.
What?
That's a bigger offense.
No, that's what he would say.
Flavor should be dark roasted grain malt impression with coffee and or chocolate flavors dominating the palate. Hop bitterness is moderate. Medium to high sweetness provides a counterpoint to the roasted character and hop bitterness and lasts into the finish. Low to moderate fruity esters, diacetyl low to none. The balance between dark grains, malts, and sweetness can vary from quite sweet to moderately dry and somewhat roasty. There's kind of a lot to unpack in the flavor category on this thing.
Range,
There really is. And I think, to me, that's a long-winded way of saying it can be pretty much any stout but American. American's like really, really hoppy and bitter.
Yeah.
As long as you throw some lactose in there. Like any British stout style or range, toss some lactose in, then you got a sweet stout.
Yeah.
So again, you go back to the nose, it's like mild roasted grain aroma. And it does have that. And the flavor is also, it's not a sharp roast. It's a really mild roasted grain flavor. And to me, I want to say something about this beer, and it might sound weird, but to me, it tastes like Baltic Porter Light. You know, like those like Polish Baltic Porters that have that hint of sweetness, and then it has that really mild dark malt character alongside some sweetness and not super fruity character, because some can be lagered, but it's like a Baltic Porter almost, this one.
That's a really good point. And I'm fortunate that one of my friends in my homebrew club is from Poland. And he will periodically, when he goes home, he'll bring back like Polish, Lithuanian, like porters and stuff for us to try as a club.
However you say it. Yeah.
And now that you've said that, it's like, there's a lot of this is like some of the variants of like a Baltica or something like that. That's maybe just a lighter version.
And it's a 5.3 alcohol.
As big. Yeah. Excellent observation, Brian.
I just kept tasting. I was like, "What is that?" It's like it tastes like
it's familiar, but
Baltic Porter Light.
Yeah. Mouthfeel, medium full to full bodied and creamy. Yeah, I mean it has that. That's for sure. A low to moderate carbonation. Yeah. High residual sweetness from unfermented sugars enhances the full tasting mouthfeel. Can you have a full tasting mouthfeel? Does a mouthfeel have a taste?
I would argue with that.
It's a feel. The feel's in the name. It's not mouth taste.
Full.
And again, this is one of those things. The BJCP is like flavor, and you go take the exam. The flavor and the mouthfeel are different. It's you're right. The tasting is a flavor, and the mouthfeel is a feel.
Yeah,
we can nitpick that. I mean, the full mouthfeel complements the taste, so they're just trying to explain how that works together. Probably. So
I'm sure Gordon is fixing that for the 2020 revision if there is going to be such a thing.
I mean, it's very full bodied, very creamy. I mean, that hits the nail right on the head. Comments: gravities are low in England, higher in exported and U.S. product. Variations exist with the level of residual sweetness, the intensity of the roast character, and the balance between the two being the variables most subject to interpretation. That's pretty true. Yeah. Some versions in England are very sweet and low attenuation, and also low in ABV, like Tennant's Sweetheart Stout is 2%. I love low alcohol beers, but I don't know if I would drink a 2% Milk Stout, man. I don't think I could do it.
I don't know. It's so weird.
Because it's just like sugar water. I mean, I would try it. But it wouldn't be. You know what I need to do is take a walk down to the pub for a 2%er.
At least get to 3, you know?
Right.
You know what this show is reminding me of? Is the time that I went to the river when I lived in L.A., like in the early 90s.
To score heroin?
To score heroin, of course. Out to the Colorado, and we went with some friends, and the rule was a case a man because it's so hot. You got to bring a case per day.
Yeah.
And for some reason, at the Safeway in Huntington Beach, I could get cases of Mackeson Sweet Stout. And I went to the river with like 2 cases of Mackeson, and I drank 2 frickin' cases of Mackeson. And as I remember, I might have gotten at least a case and a half deep in that over like the course of the weekend.
I don't know. I couldn't. That
was a damn fine weekend. I think I slept on a picnic table.
Let's see. Some versions in England are sweet, but it's an outlier compared to the other examples. These guidelines mostly describe the higher gravity, more balanced export versions rather than low alcohol, very sweet versions that many find quite difficult to drink. So that's sort of a good point. This is a 5.3% beer.
Yes.
It's brewed by an Irish brewery in America. Is it trying to be an export? Is it trying to be a domestic? For UK purposes, it's low alcohol. It's not hard to drink. It's actually very easy to drink. But like Brian says, it's sort of on the edge of this is very sweet. So I don't know.
It's middle of the road for alcohol strength. It's 5-ish. It's not. It can go up to 6. So.
Oh my God.
Down to 2 or 4, but the 2 is an outlier. What I would like more in this though is more of a coffee and cream impression.
Yeah,
espresso.
More of a cream than coffee, I think. Oh, actually,
it's
espresso. Yeah,
I would like a little like warm, smooth espresso in this, and it's kind of lacking.
Yeah, agreed.
But not a bad attempt at the style. It is smooth and it's sweet. So as advertised, you could drink a lot of this on a nice fall day. It is still fall, right?
Or down in the van by the river. You want to hear some good trivia, Brian?
Hang on. IBU's torque 20 to 40. OG is 1044 to 1060. Final gravities are 1012 to 1024. ABV 4 to 6. SRM 30 to 40.
Yeah. But yeah, boy, for such a low starting gravity beer, like 1012 to 1024, it can get pretty sweet. And I would guess this one's on the lower end for final gravity.
Yeah, because there's a dryness to it.
Kind of medium sweet with some dryness underneath. And it can lean that direction.
I like it. I think it's good.
Fun. It is.
I like it too. Yeah. I'm not sure that I would go buy a 6-pack of it, but I like what I'm drinking. I'm enjoying it. I might drink a 6-pack of this.
Mid to upper 30s score wise.
Yeah, I agree. This is like a 30. I'd give us a 35.
Yeah, 36, 37.
I would do 37 because it is pretty standard as far as, the descriptions, it's sort of right down the middle. It's definitely not a 40.
No.
I'll tell you that.
That's true.
It's a beer that is also not going to... You want to drink it now. If you find it, drink it fresh and don't let it sit and age forever.
Yeah, this might be a 37.
Well, so here's a question. What would you do to bump the score? What would you suggest if this was a homebrew and someone sent this in? How would we say, here's how you can make it a 45? Because you're not going to make it a 50.
I would like a little more... So it's got a little bit of the cream... But I would add more lactose and I would add more roasts just to get that coffee and cream, like it's the double-edged sword. Boom! Like this is a little coffee and a little cream and a little sweetness, and it's kind of it's okay.
You would do more lactose,
a little more roast, a little more lactose. I would definitely have more lactose.
I would have. I would up the roast. I think you guys. I agree with you guys because
that's the first thing. Yeah.
And maybe even like pale chocolate. Not even like some of the funkier. I would go maybe some pale chocolate in there,
or even just regular chocolate.
Chocolate is a good call.
Yeah, and then leave the lactose because for me it's on that. For me it's on the edge of this is almost too sweet. Like you said, I don't know if I would rush out and buy another 6-pack of this. But I'll drink this over the course of an hour. No, like a week maybe. Know.
Well, the added chocolate or roast will stand up to like maybe 25% more lactose. I don't mean like double the lactose.
No, yeah,
I mean like bump
it
up like a quarter. That's not a lot. Maybe eighth or even an eighth. And I think the balance then is more like having a creamy espresso.
Because I can kind of tell when you taste a beer that has that residual milk sugar in it that does not ferment out, you really taste it. And it's, I mean, to me, it's hitting that edge. And it might be sweet from the other dextrins and stuff that are left in it, but it's not that lactose sweetness that you get that cream-like impression. Milk stout. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a good beer. I think they did a great job with it. But I've had other ones that I like the balance a little bit better on. So you know. There's always room for improvement, but
that's true.
It's a very drinkable beer. You could sip a lot of this.
Well, if you find it out in the wild, grab some.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Recommend it.
And you know what? Drinking an Irish beer, Brian, our name, Brian, is Irish.
Okay.
It's of Irish descent.
There you go. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in to Dr. Homebrew. This is the last episode of 2019.
What?
The next time you'll hear our voices, provided you don't go back in time, is in the brand new year, the brand new decade, 2020.
If I'm allowed to keep my credentials here.
No,
you are going to be allowed,
out.
my friend. And
for the remainder of the year.
Coming at you in the 20s.
That's right. Thank you very much. While we have a brief second here before the song pushes me out.
Are the flappers going to come back?
Yes,
right.
They will.
Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to the show. You guys supporting the show, sending beers in to Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com, I think is it. Anyway, you guys keep the show afloat. We really appreciate it very much. Without you, there would be no show. So thank you first and foremost to everybody who listens.
Please let's not have ever another show where my beer is the only homebrews on it.
I'm going to fix my keg.
Do that. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next year.